We're going to start our video rulebook by talking about players, substitutes, and equipment. In order to start a game, a team must have at least 4 team members present. If somebody fouls out or is ejected from the game and the team now has fewer than 4 players, they may continue to play as long as they have at least 2, but they can also forfeit if they would like as well. Note that COREC specific rules must also be met in this instance. Speaking of COREC rules, let's talk about some of the specific ones that have to be met in that division at all times. In terms of the number of men and women on the court at any one time, the difference must be no more than 2. This means that if a team has 5 players, 3 of them must be men and 2 of them women, or 3 of them women and 2 men. If a team only has 4 players, it can be either 2 and 2 or 3 and 1. If they drop down to 3, it must be 2 and 1, and if they only have 2 players, they can either both be men, both be women, or be 1 each. If a team shows up with 5 players, for example, but 4 of them are men and only 1 is a woman, then they must start the game with only 4 players total on the court. Another important rule about COREC is which ball to use. If either team wants to use a women's size ball, then that is the ball that you will use for the game. But if both teams agree that they would both like to use a men's ball, then you can use a men's ball for that game. Now let's talk about illegal equipment. You cannot wear any hard-brimmed hats, so that's like a baseball cap. You are allowed to wear a knit cap, I guess, if that's something that suits you playing basketball indoors. You also cannot have any hard knot bandanas, so the ones with the knot on the back are not allowed, and that's because those can be concussion risks or injury risks because they're hard items. Other hard items include watches, which are not allowed, and any kind of jewelry whatsoever. In terms of shoes, you can be wearing any kind of athletic shoes, but absolutely no open-toed shoes, or cleats, obviously, or on hardwood. Now let's talk about pennies and numbers. Every single player on the team must be wearing a shirt or jersey with a number on it, and the entire team must be matching in color. This means that if they show up and they're in different colors, but they all have numbers, they'll be forced to wear pennies. And also, if most of their team isn't wearing a number, they'll be forced to wear pennies. Trust me, this makes it way easier for foul reporting. They are allowed to have numbers drawn onto their shirts, but we cannot allow taping numbers because as the shirts get sweaty, those numbers fall right off. If you're going to a team and instructing them to wear pennies, make sure you tell them and not ask them that they will be wearing pennies. Don't ask, hey, I see that y'all are not wearing shirts with numbers. Would you like to wear pennies? Say, y'all are not wearing shirts with numbers. You're going to be wearing pennies. The exception to this rule is that one person on each team can be designated to be number 0 or 00 if they show up with everybody in numbers except for one person. This way they don't all have to wear pennies. But this can only be one person. You can't have 4 people being number 0, obviously. In the past, we've allowed participants to draw numbers on their hands or arms, but they tend to run off and they're reluctant to tell us their number when they're fouled. So make sure that they are wearing a shirt or a penny, not having numbers drawn anywhere on their body. Finally, let's talk about beckoning substitutes into the game. Make sure that the ball is dead and it's not about to be put into play before you as the official beckon in the substitutes. Also make sure that they've already checked in with the scorer and are in the designated spot to come in. They cannot be doing live substitutions or just hopping on and off the bench.